Hi there, this is Ivan Anderson. I play guitar in Sweetfix, and in this video I'm going to show you how to get the most out of your Moog MF-102 ring modulator. Specifically, I'm going to explain what the knobs do, including the drive knob and why it's special, and also what all the inputs and outputs on the back are for, and how you can use them to do some unusual things. I should also mention that this is one of 2 videos I've made about the Moog ring modulator. You can watch these videos in any order. In the other one, I spend more time playing musical stuff, getting some good basic tones, and talking in depth about how ring modulation works. In this video, I spend more time turning knobs and explaining how you can do next level stuff by using this pedal's advanced features. But first, I want to start with just a quick primer on what ring modulation actually is. When your signal enters this pedal, it gets multiplied by something called the carrier frequency. When the carrier frequency is low, the result is just a familiar sounding tremolo effect. But as the carrier frequency gets higher, the tremolo effect gets so fast that it starts to blur and take on the properties of a pitch. So, in other words, ring modulation is just tremolo that can get very fast. That's all it really is. Okay, so with that knowledge, let's look at what the knobs are doing. And for this, I'm going to ignore the LFO part. We're going to do these in a minute. And we're also going to come back to drive later in the video for reasons you'll see. Also, maybe now's a good time to say you might notice the drive knob is blue. That's just because I changed the knob to be cute. I like to change the knobs on my pedals. It doesn't mean this ring modulator has been modded or anything weird. It's just because I changed the knob. Okay, so here we go. We're going to talk about these pedals. Mix is just the balance between your signal and the ring modulation. So with mix on nothing, the effect is almost off basically. It's not doing anything. And then as you bring in the mix, you're adding the weird ring modulated version of the signal to itself. So with mix on 10, it's only the wet effect. It's only the ring modulation, which is nice and weird. Okay, frequency is the frequency of the carrier frequency. This is basically what you're using to multiply the signal that comes in. So when the carrier frequency is low, it's a cute tremolo, and as you get faster and faster, it becomes the weird thing for the reason I explained a moment ago. And then when this gets to its maximum position, you can flick this switch and pick up where you left off. So now in the minimum position, it's where it was a moment ago on the maximum position, and we can get even faster. You can get really fast. Okay, that's what this does. And then over here, let's talk about the low frequency oscillator. So these controls, basically, once you set these to somewhere you like this, that's weird and cool. You can now change these settings over time with these. And what I mean is, imagine if you just played, and then while you were playing, you like jiggled that knob with your finger. That sounds sort of cool. So you can do that without your finger just by setting these knobs. So rate is how fast you want this position to vary. Right? The faster this goes, the faster it'll jiggle. Here, you can hear it sort of jiggle there. So rate is how fast it'll do that. And they have this cute light here that sort of shows you how fast it's moving. You can also hear it. And then amount is how wide or how far it jiggles while it's jiggling. So with amount high, it's jiggling a lot. It's covering a wide range in its jiggle. There, it was so fast you almost couldn't hear it. Here you can sort of hear the sweep. Okay, now this switch, when it's on the position it's on now, we'll call that the sine wave position. It jiggles sort of from here to here continuously. It's going from the maximum spot to the minimum spot and all spots in between. In this position, the square wave position, what it's doing is it's going from the maximum position and then basically teleporting to the lower position, but it's skipping the values in between them. You can hear that. Okay, let's take a look at the back panel. As you can see, there are a lot of inputs and outputs back here, but the only two you ever need to use are these two, audio in and audio out. That's your basic input and output. Everything else is optional. The four up here have to do with using an expression pedal. These are inputs, and they correspond to the four main knobs on the pedal: rate, amount, mix, and frequency. So if you take an expression pedal, like the one Moog makes, and plug it into any one of these inputs back here, or all four of them, the expression pedal will replace whatever knob you've chosen. So that way you can control, let's say, mix with your foot while you're playing by moving the expression pedal rather than having to bend over and reach down and touch the mix knob. Then down here, things get a little more sophisticated. Carrier out is an output, and this is just however you have the frequency knob set, you can hear what it's doing from here. So you could send this to an amplifier and listen to a sine wave, which is however you have the frequency knob set. That would sound like this. You could also theoretically control something else with this if you had another pedal that had an input for that, most likely a Moog. Okay, this next one, in my opinion, is the most interesting. Carrier in. This is an input. And whatever you put in here will replace the frequency knob and do what the frequency knob is doing instead of the frequency knob. So, for instance, let's say we took a random tone generator, like this one. All it does is generate random sine waves. And let's say we took those random sine waves and put them in here. What would happen now is those random sine waves will be used to ring modulate your guitar signal or whatever you sent in. That would now be the source of the ring modulation instead of however you had this set. So this is one way to take an already weird pedal and take it to the next level of weird. Let's listen to what it sounds like to use this pedal with a random tone generator. So you can sort of hear as the random tone changes, so too does the weird effect of having it used as the carrier frequency. So I'm just going to play one note now. And you can hear the random tone hop around and change it. And the last thing on the back panel is here, LFO out. This is an output, and this just takes the settings you have for the LFO and sends it out of the pedal. So you could run that into a synthesizer or another Moog pedal or anything else that had an input for receiving LFO settings. Okay, let's talk about the drive knob for a second. Drive knob is pretty interesting. You can use this pedal with basically any instrument level or line level input source. It's very versatile. All you have to do is set the drive knob carefully. So the instruction manual explains what you want to do is find the spot where this light, when you play, is always yellow or green, but rarely red. So I'm basically there. But here's the interesting thing, is that even when you're not using the ring modulation effect, the drive knob is still doing its thing. It's not bypassable. The drive knob is always in effect. So even with no ring modulation, you can see the drive knob is still doing what it does. So what I've done is I've put this effect in a true bypass looper here from loopmaster.com. So you can compare how neutral it really is. So with this, the effect is now bypassable, including the drive knob. So here's what the signal sounds like going through the ring modulation, not using the ring modulation, only using the drive circuit. And now here's not going through the ring modulation at all, not even going through drive. It's pretty good, it's pretty neutral. Again, here's going through the pedal. And here's not going through it. Not going through it might be a little bit quieter, just because it's hard to find the exact spot on this knob that's unity gain. That might be it. It's close. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's basically neutral. Like for club gigs, you're not going to have to worry about going through the drive knob circuitry. But the other cool thing is that drive knobs generally are of interest to guitar players because you can use them to drive tube amps. So I'm going to go change my amp settings right now. But when I come back, what we can do is use the ring modulator and the drive knob just as an overdrive pedal. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I have some more gain on my amp now. It sounds like this. That's no effects at all. That's just a Marshall JSAM 800 and me and the guitar. I'm not going through the ring modulator at all. So let's compare what it sounds like just to go through the amp and what it sounds like to use the ring modulation only for the drive circuitry, not actually the ring mod. Again, first I'm going to play just me and the amp. Sounds like this. Okay, now we're going to use the drive. So you can hear it does add something. It adds sort of its own distinctive, kind of fuzzy, kind of bassy kind of drive. It's a little Smashing Pumpkin-y to my ears. Okay, that just about does it. Thanks for watching. You now know everything you need to use your ring modulator really effectively. If you're still curious, I do have that other video you can watch. In that one, you can hear a little bit more about what it sounds like when you're using ring modulation to do musical stuff and not just explain how it works. And in closing, when I first started putting these videos together, I started trying to think of examples in popular music that use ring modulation, and I came up with 3. The first one is a Prince song, The Rainbow Children, which is track 1 on the album The Rainbow Children, and there's a guitar solo in the middle of it where Prince uses ring modulation. He sort of goes in and out, but if you listen, you'll hear the ring mod, and it is Prince playing guitar, so it's pretty cool. The second example is a Guthrie Govan song. Song is Erotic Cakes on the album Erotic Cakes. And again, it's a guitar solo, but this one's pretty in your face with its use of ring modulation. You'll recognize it almost instantly. And the third example is a Lady Gaga song called The Fame on her record The Fame, but it's not a guitar solo, it's a rhythm guitar part. It's a little harder to catch, but in the breakdown towards the middle of the song, you could probably hear it. And then one last really weird coincidence is that all 3 of those songs are title songs. All of them have the same name as the album they appear on, and all of them use ring modulation. I don't know what that means, but it is pretty weird. Okay, thank you for watching.